It's the MOSHOW Chicago, and we are back again on another fantastic, super sunny winter day. And if this is your first time watching the MOSHOW Chicago, I ask that you share the information with relatives, friends, co-workers, anyone that you come into contact with. It is a terrific way to jumpstart your conversation. And today's conversation just happens to be about the destruction of black civilization, a book by Chancellor Williams. And the reason that I'm bringing this to you is because 2 videos ago, I recommended that black people and everyone else read 4 books this month, especially if you're a black person. And one of those books was The Destruction of Black Civilization. And if you've been reading or keeping up with that book, which I hope you have, you will find out about the Berbers. You will find out about the democratic system that the Africans used, the Kemetic people used, the Ethiopian people used, the Nubian people used to govern their people. And their religion was their way of life, long before the Romans and the Greeks came along. In fact, the Romans and the Greeks copied that democratic system that they used and made it a republic in which we live in today. They tell you that we live in a democracy here in America, but when you sing the pledges of allegiance, you say to the republic for which it stands. You don't say for democracy for which it stands. You say for the republic in which it stands, correct? In that book, you will also learn about the dynasties. And there was many of them. But today we're going to end off in the 25th dynasty, which took place around 730 BC, because the history of the book entitled The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams is a history from 4500 BC until 2000 AD. Okay? So don't argue with me about the facts that I'm going to give you. Do your own research, which I highly encourage you to do. The more that you arm yourself with, the more conversations that you can have with people, real conversations, the more your energy will be on a higher vibration and doors will open up for you. Just read for 30 days. Take that challenge. But anyway, also in this book, you will learn about Imhotep. You will learn about many Imhoteps, but one in particular, and he is called the father of medicine, even until this very day by the Caucasian scientists. Why? Because he was the first doctor, he was the first pharmacist, he was the first pyramid builder. In fact, Imhotep was the one who built the step pyramids for King Doja. I'm sure he even built the master box under it where the tombs lay and things like that. I'm sure that he too did that because he too was an architect. He was a mathematician. Something like a god, you dig? This is some phenomenal history that Chancellor Williams gives you. But not only that, you will also read about the first Willie Lynch system, long before that which was used in the 1716, the white guy that came from the Caribbean to help the Virginia slave masters keep control of their slaves. Long before this guy came along, the white Asians and Arabs, along with the Europeans, used this system as they conquered Kemet, Ethiopia, Nubia. Now, what did they do? When they invaded Africa, they started having sex with the royal family females and began to have babies by them. And those descendants, they gave power over their darker relatives. Remember, their darker relatives, the black people, were conquered. So the lighter relative, the lighter descendant was free, and the others were slaves. That started long before the Willie Lynch of 1716. In this book, you will also find out about how black people have been running for 4,000 years. Not just 400 years, but for 4,000 years. That's unbelievable. Now, many people talk about how black people are 400 years behind economically. I'm going to take you to 4,000 years economically, because that's what Chancellor Williams do in this book. Now, you had what they call the white Asians, the Asians, and even you had a Asian dynasty. You had an Asian dynasty in Kemet, Egypt, and that was the 6th dynasty. And if I'm not mistaken, was it Seti part of the 6th dynasty? The Asian dynasty, but we'll get off into that. So you see where the black Asian comes, or what they call the Afro-Asians, the Nagas. Yeah, that even goes off over to Nagasaki, like Japan. Real talk. Chancellor Williams take you there. If you have not read the book, I highly recommend it. This is my 2nd time reading the book. The first time I read it back in what, 96? Something like that. Along with other books back then that I was reading. Another one that I recommended to you was Stolen Legacy by George James. 4,000 years we've been running. From white Asians, Arabs, and Europeans. They started in Lower Egypt, cutting off the Macedonia, cutting off the water, cutting off the ports where we would actually have our economy. We sent out things to other people. We had boats that no one else had. We, black people. But today, black people don't have anything. They don't have anything. And in the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, you will see why we don't have anything. In this book, you will hear about or read about King Menes, one of the greatest ever. Established the capital of Memphis, city of Thebes. In fact, Thebes was so powerful for leaders. Do you know that anytime that the Al-Kubalani country, the whole country got into trouble, they sought leadership from Thebes and Memphis. And speaking of Memphis and Menes, you also find in this book that it was the people of Menes and the descendants from those people are the ones who really built those pyramids in Cairo. Unbelievable. The destruction of black civilization. But those 4,000 years, cutting us off from the Macedonia, pushing us further south to the Sudan, made us nomads. Made us nomads, and we're still running to this very day. And sadly, if you continue to read this book, the sad part about it, you will see how black people had a problem with themselves long before white Europeans even showed up. That's just keeping it a buck, 100. Black people had problems long before the European even showed up. According to my research, and I do a lot of research, it is my research that the Caucasians really have only been here like no more than 6,600 years. But they ruling right now. But that's a whole nother conversation. We're going to keep it on the destruction of black civilization. And I'm going to tell you something else. It was so easy for them to continue to pick us off because we had no unity among ourselves. And when we finally did unite to fight against the foreigners, it was too late because foreigners kept coming. Even after we would regain kingdoms. But we still have problems with ourselves. So other nations of people like the white Asians and the Europeans and the Arabs, I'll get to them later, sought very easy pickings to keep us divided. And that's what happened, even until this very day. Even until this very day. In order to conquer us, they still have us divided. But we do the most dividing among ourselves. They just edge in the key. They just edge or wedge in the key and make their own molding. I'm just saying. Not only that, you will find out about Nefertari and her husband, King Amos, and how they produced the son Akhenaten. And I think that's what, the 18th dynasty of Akhenaten. Well, this book is very powerful. You would even read about Thutmose, King Thutmose, who was the father of Queen Hatshepsut. Queen Hatshepsut was a beast, but not like Nefertari. In fact, Queen Nefertari, which is the wife of King Amos III, her grandchildren tried to write her out of the history of ever being a queen in Kemet. That wasn't white people. That was black people. I'm just saying, you can see the betrayal all through the book. That was the most saddening part, the betrayal. But not only the betrayal, the same mistakes continuously being made over and over, whereas they would continuously find themselves in the condition in which they're in, and we are still in that condition today. But it's just not in America, it's just not in Africa, it's all over the world under white supremacy. All of this stuff started taking place way before the Conference of Berlin. This is an amazing book. If you have not read it, I highly recommend that you read it. Unbelievable. You will read about Pianki. You would read about how there are, or was, 70 kings in 70 days. I mean, you had certain dynasties, or some dynasties, that was in existence when other ones was in existence, having governing laws and rules and regulations, just like we have all over the planet today. Like you have the Chinese, they got their thing, the Russians got their thing, you know, the Bosnian, the English people, the British, they got their thing. We had that centuries, eons ago in our Kubulan, long before the European even showed his face on the scene. And you tell me that we're not a great people, and you tell me why they don't teach you this as a part of black history versus bringing you in at 1863. Why they want to bring us in at 1863? I'm just saying. Now it's going to get real juicy, because in 725 AD, that's when the Arabs came in and did what? Took control of Kemet and made black people slaves. 725 AD, under the flag of Islam, propagating Prophet Muhammad, Islam is what enslaved black people. You read that in the destruction of black civilization. You can even read that in the book of Stolen Legacy, but we're going to keep that on the destruction of black civilization. Now, when you bring it to these brothers in the Nation of Islam, they don't have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to go. Even I was an FOI at one time, and all of the knowledge that I did get, it was very much appreciated. But when I started to branch outside of that knowledge, I began to see more and just incorporated it with what I already knew, which gave me more of an arsenal to combat falsehood with truth. Doesn't it say in the Quran that you are supposed to whirl truth and falsehood to knock his brains out? Well, the destruction of black civilization hurls truth all the time and will continue to knock your brain out as long as you read it. But in the process of knocking your brain out, it's going to give you something. It's going to open your mind. It's going to open your vision. And this is why they don't want you to read this book. Not even on the collegiate level, they don't teach you this in universities. They don't. In this book, you will also learn about Queen Candace. Queen Candace was a hell of a black woman. She was chief of her own tribe and held it down all the way until the guns came. You must remember, political power comes through the barrel of a gun. Political power comes through the barrel of a gun. Conquerorship comes through a barrel of a gun. Slavery comes through the barrel of a gun. I'm just saying. The destruction of black civilization. What a book. If you haven't read it, pick it up. I'll be back with some more good stuff because I can't give you the whole book. It's too much. It's just too much. You'll find out about Queen Ty. Queen Ty and her husband. You'll find out about Khufu. You'll find about Imhotep III, Imhotep II. And these are not the Imhoteps that did the pyramids for the Djosers. These are more kings and dynasties that existed. Read the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization. It's your brother, the MOSHOW Chicago. Thanks for viewing. And remember, it is your third eye that makes you shine like jewelry.